Hi, this is Guy. Now today we're going to talk about how to eliminate the mosquitoes in your yard. Now, I'm getting on in years, but let me tell you, I've been doing pest control for many, many years, and I'm licensed in several states. Well, I'm not licensed anymore, and I'm retired now, but I thought it would be a good idea to give you some insight into not only how to control mosquitoes, but how to actually eliminate them altogether. I looked on YouTube, and there are a lot of very, very good YouTube videos on how to control your mosquitoes. And of course, this is what the professionals do too. They come in and they control your mosquitoes. And if they treat every 3 or 4 weeks, or if you treat every 3 or 4 weeks with a pesticide, you will keep the mosquito population down sufficiently where it probably won't be much of a problem for you. The problem is with the professionals, I think they probably charge like $75 a treatment. And so at $75 every 30 days, that can get kind of expensive. And treating your mosquitoes every 30 days is kind of a nuisance to get out there and have to do it every month. So what I'm going to talk to you about today is a way you don't have to do that. So if you do what I'm suggesting, we're going to eliminate those mosquitoes once and for all, permanently, and you're not going to have any. I mean, I'm going to take that mosquito population down to 0 for you. 0 mosquitoes, so you don't have to worry about them. And you're only going to have to spray one time only, and that's it. You're done. All right? So if that's of interest to you, then please keep watching. Now, I can't do this in a short period of time. I saw a very, very good video a couple of days ago about how to pretty much reduce your mosquito population really, really low. And they did a great job talking about the same thing I'm going to talk about, how to get rid of breeding areas and things. And they managed to do it in 2.5 minutes. I was really impressed. It was a good video, but they didn't go in depth enough because you really can't do it in 2.5 minutes. So if you bear with me and just give me a little bit more time, I think I can show you a way that's going to make you very happy going forward and reduce your mosquito population to 0. Now, in order to reduce your population to 0, you need to know a little bit about the life cycle of a mosquito. Now, typically, when I do one of these videos, I do not spend any time at all talking about the life cycle of that particular pest because it's really boring. If you want to punish a prisoner in a state penitentiary, don't bother putting them in isolation or anything. Just make them watch a 2-hour video on the life cycle of a mosquito, and trust me, that's far worse than putting them in the chute. Okay? So I'm not going to go in depth into the life cycle of mosquitoes, but there are a couple of things that you need to know in order to eliminate them altogether. The first thing you need to know is that only female mosquitoes suck blood. The males don't eat blood, okay? And the reason female mosquitoes drink blood is because they need to take a blood meal in order to lay their eggs. And they only lay their eggs in standing water. So, logically, it follows if they need to lay the eggs in standing water, if you eliminate all the standing water, you eliminate the ability of the mosquitoes to breed and multiply. That's the same for any organism. It's the reason animals go extinct. If you deny any organism the ability to breed, the ones that are existing are simply going to die out. And that is pretty much what we want to have happen with your mosquitoes. Another thing that you need to know about mosquitoes is they do not like sunlight. Much like a vampire, Mosquitoes avoid sunlight. Sunlight kills vampires and they suck blood. Well, mosquitoes are very similar to vampires in that regard, although mosquitoes are very real while vampires are not. So mosquitoes hide in the sun. So the best time to spray for mosquitoes after you eliminate their breeding areas is between the hours of 12 and 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Because at that time, that's when the sun's up. So obviously you don't want to be doing this on a cloudy day. It's best to do this in the sun. That way the mosquitoes aren't going to be eating you while you're busy trying to treat for them. Okay? Very simple. They're going to be in places like under the leaves of trees or bushes, on your grass, in shaded areas. They're going to take the shady side of the grass and so forth. Any place that they can be to get out of the sun, that's what you want to treat. Finally, you need to know that from the time a female mosquito lays its eggs in standing water to the time that those eggs become adult mosquitoes that are capable of sucking blood takes several days. So if you have an area on your property that is low-lying, where after it rains you have some water sitting there, but that water dries up within a few hours or a day and it becomes dry again, that is not an area you need to fill in or be concerned about. I have one of those right at the door to my lanai here where my pool is, and every time it rains that fills with water, but after the rain stops, that area dries up within like 2 hours, so it's not something I have to worry about. So we're not going to treat those kind of areas. What we're looking for is very specific places where water stands for a very, very long time. And we're going to get into that in just a little bit. Okay, now you know everything you need to know about the life cycle of a mosquito. So let me show you a little bit about the sorts of places that mosquitoes breed and the sorts of things that I find in people's yards when I go to treat their mosquito populations. And by the way, mosquitoes do not respect property lines. So if you want 0 mosquitoes, it's not enough just to treat your property. You also have to treat your neighbor's property. And when I say treat, all I mean is help them eliminate those places where mosquitoes can breed, i.e. standing water. So if your neighbor has any of these areas, help them eliminate it. Now, you might say, well, hey, that's not my job, that's my neighbor's job. Well, okay, if you just leave it to your neighbor and they don't bother with it, you're still the one that's going to get eaten by the mosquitoes. So I don't know if there's a whole lot of percentage in that. So what I do, if I don't know my neighbor well, is I go to the local supermarket, get myself a dozen cookies, get like a Chinette plate, make a nice arrangement of the cookies, go over to the neighbor's house, introduce myself, offer them the cookies, chat up a little bit, and then ask them if I can go in their backyard and inspect for mosquito harborages. And typically they are very willing to let me do that. And after I do it, I just kind of go over with them what I found and how to eliminate it. And if they don't mind, I go ahead and do it for them. I'm not going to go over there with a wheelbarrow and with dirt and fill in low spots and anything like that. But if they have some of the other areas that we're going to talk about in a minute, I'll help them eliminate those. And I'll show you what they are. They're things like bird baths that have stagnant water in them because nobody bothers with them, and kiddie pools that were used for a little while and they just left them abandoned, those kinds of things. And I'm going to show them all to you in just a minute. But please do take the time to look at your neighbor's yard. You will be amazed how many of these things you find next door or across the street or in the back, the people behind your yard and that sort of thing. And also keep in mind that if you abut a wooded area, mosquitoes love wooded areas, and there's a lot of little nooks and crannies where mosquitoes can breed, little pockets of water. I'm going to show you those as well. And if you abut a wooded area, even if it's not your property, you need to go back there and treat. And I'm going to show you how to do that with a larvicide because, some of these trees have spots in them where the water collects and you really can't be cutting the trees down, particularly if you don't own the property. But you can maybe dump a little larvicide right in there and eliminate it that way. So without any further ado, let me show you what I'm talking about. Here's a great example of some bird baths. These are a great idea. People love them. But after a while, they just stop changing the water in them, and the water gets stagnant, and it becomes a perfect breeding ground for mosquitoes. So if you have these, make sure that you change the water often, at least every couple of days. If you have buckets laying around the house, turn them upside down or get rid of them, because these are perfect breeding grounds for mosquitoes. You can see this one was left here for quite a while. Now, kiddie pools are also a prime place for breeding ground. This is a person that thought it was a good idea to turn into a pond. And this is just a pool that was left abandoned, and you can see the mosquitoes are just breeding like mad in there. These pools break, and when they do, people don't bother to get rid of them, and they become massive breeding grounds for mosquitoes. So if you see any of these sorts of things, eliminate it. And of course, here's a culvert pipe or drain pipe that has water left in it. You got to be really careful about those. And planters. These are empty planters where I'm sure there's water in the bottom of them. And, here's a planter that's just filled up with water. Again, prime places for mosquitoes to breed. So any of these, this planter looks quite old. And again, plenty of mosquito larvae in there. Or if you have ponds, this is not a, kiddie pool, but somebody thought it was a good idea to make a pond, and, that's what you get. And puddles, too. If you got these puddles, fill them in. Even here, you want to make sure you can kind of tend to that. I know it's a pain in the neck to take those paving stones up, but you really need to do it. And if you have any old tires laying around like this, they are ideal places for mosquitoes to breed. So you definitely want to get rid of any old tires. And if you have any trash cans like this that have water in it, turn them upside down so that the water can't stand in the trash cans. Or wheelbarrows, just stand them up. Again, you don't want any standing water of any type. Here's the kind of tree hole that you often find in the forest. It's kind of the way the trees grow. And if you find any with standing water in there, you can put a little larvicide in there to take care of that if it's not your property. A great larvicide to sprinkle into the water is this Talstar Pro G. It does a great job. Just it uses directed. You just sprinkle it in the water if you have those small spots, and it does a wonderful job. Or if you prefer, you can use a mosquito dunk like this. You just simply take one of these and throw it in the water. Again, use according to directions. If you have a large amount of water, you might need more than one of them. I don't use them myself because I try to get rid of all the places where there are mosquitoes. So I eliminate all the mosquito breeding areas, and I don't live near any woods. So I don't have any areas where I need to use this sort of thing. But if you do, this is a great option. Now, here you see what mosquito larvae actually looks like. It's kind of disgusting when you think about it, but they're almost like little worms that you can see floating around in the water. And as you can see here, that's going to be hundreds of mosquitoes in just that little bit of water. So you really, really need to get rid of any standing water that you have anywhere around your property and around your neighbor's property. Now that you've eliminated all of the breeding grounds, you need to know that the mosquitoes you have still can live from 4 days to maybe 30 days. And so you don't want to be getting bitten by mosquitoes for that period of time. So I would recommend that you do a one-time treatment to get rid of the adult mosquitoes that you have right now. And there's a couple ways that you can do that. The first is you can use a sprayer like this. And you may remember if you saw one of my previous videos, I've marked this per gallon. Now, normally I would recommend that you use something that doesn't have much of a residual, like a pyrethrin-based pesticide, and I'll put one up on the screen for you, maybe two, when I get back inside and show you what they look like. But I don't have them because I've already done that like several years ago, so I don't treat anymore. But what I do have is Talstar P. This is a residual pesticide that's good all around your home. Now, two ways to apply it, actually more than two ways, but two ways I'm recommending to apply this is one with a sprayer. Normally for general pests I would mix this 1 ounce per gallon, but mosquitoes are pretty easy to kill, so I'm going to recommend you that you mix this 1/2 ounce per gallon. And so since this is a 4-gallon sprayer, you put 2 ounces in here, fill it with water, you're good to go. And just spray your shrubberies and your lawns, and I'm going to show you how to do that in a minute. But this is not the sprayer that I recommend using for your yard and your shrubberies and things, because it just takes too long. It's great for around the perimeter of your house and everything, but for your yard, I much prefer to use one of these. Now, let me tell you, if you hire a professional, what they are going to do is they're going to come in with a backpack sprayer. And the backpack sprayer actually has a motor on it, and it makes like a fog. It's actually a fogger. And it's very fast and does a really, really good job. The only thing is those foggers, the kind that they use, run $300 to $1,000. And if you're only going to do one-time treatment on your yard, it's really not worth the investment. You can get some smaller ones that plug into an electric cord for under $100, like $90 or something. But again, not worth that much money. I got this from Amazon for just under $20. It was $19 and change. So this is a very small investment to make to treat your yard one time. Now, this can be a little bit confusing because it measures the application in tablespoons. And so we're talking about, with Talstar and most pesticides, ounces per gallon, and this thing's talking about tablespoons per gallon, so I don't know what genius thought that up. But it's pretty easy to convert. 2 tablespoons equals 1 ounce. So if we were applying 1 ounce per gallon, we would just set this. There's a dial here. It's numbered 1 to 10 on the top. And I'll try to show you a close-up of that a little later. Right now, but I'll actually take a picture of it and flash it up while I'm talking. But there is a dial here, and if you set it for 2, that's 1 ounce per gallon. So if you want 1/2 ounce per gallon, just set it for 1. So and there's a little arrow here. You just set the 1 onto the arrow, and you're 1/2 ounce per gallon. Now, before you treat, you want to make sure you're going to use some protective equipment. Now, I'm actually going to use the pesticide today, and so I'm going to pour this in and show you how to do that. The good thing about this device is it will handle some pretty thick liquids, and I have to tell you that not all of them will. If you go buy one of these at Home Depot that comes with the pesticide, it may not be able to handle the viscosity of other liquids. So in other words, the pesticide that comes in it may be kind of thin, whereas if you look at the Talstar, it's kind of a thick liquid. So the nice thing about these is this is a Chapin all-purpose professional sprayer. I don't know how professional it is, but it does a great job. And it will handle almost any viscosity of liquid that you want. So I really like that about it. Okay, so we're going to want to wear protective equipment. Naturally, we want, wear a hat. Generally, you wear long sleeve shirt and pants. I am going to cheat today and not wear the long sleeve shirts because it's really hot. This Florida is really hot out here. But get yourself some gloves that are chemical resistant. They're not very expensive. And of course, you're going to want a mask. This is an N95 mask that I've had about 8 years now. It's kind of dirty, but it still does the job. I'm the only one that wears it. And of course, a pair of goggles. Get these at the dollar store if you want. They're very inexpensive. And also for this, you're going to want a funnel, because you don't want to be pouring this pesticide into that small hole in there, because you're probably going to miss. All right? So let me show you how to do that real quick. So I don't need all the protective equipment, but since I'm handling a pesticide today, I am going to put my gloves on. Okay? And pretty simple, just unscrew the bottle, and I'm going to put funnel in. You see the hole is pretty small, so I'm going to use a funnel, and then just open up the bottle and just pour this in. I'm not filling it up because I'm not going to be doing a large area today. I'm just going to be doing a demonstration. And there's just a few bushes that I do want to treat, so I don't need a whole lot of it, but you get the idea. So, I've put in about 7 ounces worth. Then it's just pretty simple. Just screw this thing on. You got to get used to working with these gloves, by the way. Then you don't have a lot of dexterity with them. So you got to be a little bit careful. You'll get used to them after a while. And then, of course, I want to attach my hose to it. And it's pretty much that simple. All right, so I'm going to put on my protective equipment, move the camera to where I'm going to be treating, and I'll show you how to do it. I hope you can hear me through this mask. All right, this diverter here on the end, you can put it down for treating your lawn, or you can turn it up for treating your bushes and your trees. Now the mosquitoes like to hang out under the leaves. So what you want to do is treat the underside. So I'm going to spray up. And that's how you treat one of those. The other thing you want to do is treat your lawn. And so you turn the deflector down, and all you do is just give a light spray across the lawn. Always work backwards. You don't want to be standing in the pesticide, so always work backwards away from the area you're applying. And it's that simple. Make sure you cover all of your trees and bushes, anything that you can reach. Mosquitoes usually don't go much higher than 10 feet, 12 feet. So just catch what you can catch. Do all your grass around your fence lines here. I don't know if you can see that. Just catch that. Also, one thing to watch out for is this thing has a tendency to fall apart on this particular sprayer. So just be careful with that. Let me take my mask off and goggles for a sec, put this down. All right. Boy, that feels better. Now, one thing that I forgot to mention, I don't have any because I don't do these treatments very often. But what you want to do is these sprayers clog up sometimes and they stop working. So to be sure that you're actually spraying something out of it, put some blue dye in it. You can buy them by the gallon. It only takes a very small amount of blue dye to put in the sprayer, and that way you'll see the spray coming out blue, and so you know that the siphon is working. So again, I don't happen to have the blue dye, but I kind of know this is working because it's coming out a little bit white. And if it's coming out a little bit white, because that's the color of the pesticide, I know that it's siphoning for me. Okay? Because you don't want to be just shooting water around, get all done with the job, realize that your canister is still full of pesticide. One other breeding ground for mosquitoes is in these culvert pipes. We have this culvert pipe that runs underneath our driveway. And if you look at the landscape here closely, I'll zoom in on it in a minute, it kind of has an angle going down into the culvert pipe, but it's the same on the other side. There's an angle going down both sides. So that tells me that there's water going to pool inside this pipe. And what's going to happen is that's a perfect breeding ground for mosquitoes. And I'm not going to be able to get them with my hose applicator because it's just too far. And not going to get them with a tank sprayer. So what I got is a can of this Ortho Home Defense. This is very similar to the type of fogger that the professional uses on their back, which just gives you a fog spray like that. So all I have to do with one of these is just simply shoot it in each side of the culvert pipe, and that will go through far enough where it will kill anything that's in there. Pretty simple. Oh, by the way, if you want, you could also buy several of these. These run around $7, $8 a piece, and I only use them for the culvert pipe. But you could buy 5, 6, 7 of these, you know, and for like $40, $50, you could literally probably treat your entire yard with it one time if you just want to do that. This is the other side of my culvert pipe. Oh, and by the way, you also need to treat the culvert pipes in your neighbor's yards as well. So you need to do the property on both sides of your house, and preferably the properties across the street as well, because mosquitoes can travel up to 300 feet typically, and so they're definitely going to travel across the street. So if you don't want mosquitoes in your front yard, treat your neighbors. Okay, one final thing. As always, you want to clean up your equipment properly before you put it away. You don't ever want to leave unused pesticide in any sprayer or applicator. All right, so you'll notice that I have my goggles on. I don't need my mask because I'm not spraying, but I am going to wear my gloves because I don't want to get any pesticide on my skin. So it's pretty simple. All I'm going to do is just unscrew the bottle and pour the unused pesticide back in, like that. And I am going to put the cap back on, because I am a klutz, and if I don't put the cap back on, I'm going to knock this thing over and make a mess. So the next thing I want to do is turn my hose off, because I definitely do not want to open that hose while it's under pressure. So I'll just unscrew this thing and turn it back on. Okay, I don't want full pressure on the hose, just enough to get the job done. First thing I'm going to do is I want to clean my funnel, because that's full of pesticide. So rinse that out. Then I want to make sure that I rinse out the container that goes to the applicator. So I'm just going to kind of put some water in there and shake it, dump it out. You want to do this about 3 times to make sure this is nice and clean. So that water comes out nice and clear. Then I'm going to put some more water in it, and I'm going to reattach it to the applicator or sprayer, like that. Then I'm going to rinse off the entire unit, make sure there's no pesticide anywhere on it. Then I'm going to turn my hose off again. Then I'm going to hook it back up. Turn the hose back on. This time I'm going to put it on full strength. And I want to make sure that I shoot some water through the unit because there's pesticide still in the pickup tube and in this mechanism here. And I want to make sure that's all out of there because if you leave it in, it could clog it up because there's small holes in there. So you want to make sure that it's cleaned out. I'm going to set this on a 10 just to let more water through. So I'm going to make sure this is nice and cleaned out. And that's it. Just take your equipment apart, put it back together. And I'm not sure, I forgot if I mentioned this to you, but this thing here, see how that popped out of there? For some, I think it's a design flaw with these things. This canister can fall right off while you're using it, so be careful when you're operating this thing. Always try to keep one hand on the canister, so if it comes apart, it won't fall on the ground and you lose all your pesticide. There's a very easy thing to put back together. You know what? I think I'm going to shut the hose off so I don't spray myself putting it back together. Because I will definitely activate this thing while I'm doing it and spray myself. So since this is all cleaned up, I'm going to take my gloves off, get a little more dexterity, and then you just slide this thing back on here, and you can pop it back on. I'm just going to, let me dump the water out of here. So pretty simple. I'm just going to, it gives me a little more leverage. I'm just going to pop it right back in like that. Okay? So it pops right back together. Just that, so when you're actually using this, it's a good idea to put one hand underneath and the other hand on here and spray like this. Don't get lazy and you do this. Just be aware that this canister could pop off. Okay? All right. That's it for cleaning your equipment, folks. Okay. That's pretty much it for me. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if it was of any use or help to you, then I hope you'll give me a like and pass the information on to others and help eliminate that mosquito population for both yourself and your neighbors. It's not only the smart thing to do, it's the right thing to do. So until next time, folks, thank you for watching.